The movie starts with a high school girl sitting in front of her computer. She calls her friend and asks her what she did about her studies. Here we learn that she wants to leave the island she lives on to go to college, but she can't tell her mother because her mother is still affected by the death of her older brother. Also, she doesn't have enough money for college expenses, so she changes the subject and sends a link to an online game called Nerve. Sydney starts explaining the game and tells her that it's a real-life game with a huge audience. She says that people in this game are either recruited as players or they pay money to be viewers. The players in the game perform daring challenges, and it's the viewers who choose these challenges. The players complete the challenges to gain views and earn a lot of money, until in the end only one player wins the game and takes home millions of dollars. Sydney says that the game has 3 rules that no one is allowed to break. The first is that all challenges must be recorded on the player's phone. The second is that any money a player earns will be lost entirely if they fail any challenge. And the third is that any player who reports the game will be punished by having all their money taken away, not to mention the full consequences. There's also a special punishment that will be given by the people in charge of the game, so she tells her that the game is dangerous and warns her not to get involved, but Sydney cuts her off and tells her that she's already joined the game, and she offers to help her create an account on the game's website so she can watch her play. But Faye isn't convinced by what Sydney is saying at all. The next day at school, Faye is with her friend Tommy, taking a photo of the football team to include in the school yearbook. But Faye ends up taking most of the photos of a guy named Jay, the team captain whom she really likes and has a crush on. That day there's a football match, and it turns out that Sydney is on the cheerleading team. She goes and gives her phone to her friend Liv so she can record her dare challenge for the game. Then Sydney returns and stands among the cheerleaders, and suddenly Sydney lifts up her skirt in front of everyone there. At that moment, Faye is shocked by what Sydney is doing. After that, Faye sits with Sydney and the rest of their friends at the restaurant and they eat together. That's when Faye advises Sydney to quit the dare game, because by continuing she might end up getting herself into a lot of trouble. But Sydney refuses and tells Faye that she made $500 from the challenges she completed. Faye is surprised when Sydney tells her that this game is for people who love risk and fame. As for people like her, they'll spend their whole lives just being spectators that no one knows anything about. Then Sydney suggests to Faye that she should pretend she's playing the dare game and that her challenge is to go and introduce herself to Jay. Faye gets nervous, but her friends keep encouraging her to accept the challenge. When Faye insists on refusing, Sydney tells her that she'll do the challenge instead, then gets up from her seat and goes over to Jay. And she tells him that Faye has a crush on him and wants to get to know him. But Jay replies that Faye is just an ordinary girl and he's not interested in her. At that moment, all the boys and girls in the restaurant start recording what's happening, which upsets Faye and she leaves the place. When Faye gets back home, she's extremely upset because of what Jay said about her. She decides to join the dare game, which is a game she becomes part of. She does this to prove to Sydney that she's just as bold as she is, and also to become more popular than her classmate Jay, who rejected her. Faye agrees to all the rules and conditions of the game. She finds out that a huge number of players are participating in the game, and that anyone who fails a challenge will be eliminated from it. Not to mention, the player who completes all the challenges will win a prize worth $10 million. So she says, Tanbir is impressed by the value of the prize and joins the game without hesitation. After that, the game accesses all of Faye's social media accounts and gathers a lot of information about her. The next day, Faye calls her friend Tommy to go to the restaurant because she's about to complete her first dare in the game. But Tommy doesn't like what Faye is doing and warns her about the dare game, telling her that many young people have died because of it. So she says, Faye is surprised by what he says, because if that were really happening, then surely the police would have shut the game down. But Tom tells her that the dare game is hosted on a secret server on the dark web, and he says that the police could never hack into that server no matter what. He also tells her that the dark web is full of criminals and mentally unstable people. But Faye ignores what he says and insists on going through with the challenge. As soon as they arrive at the restaurant, Faye tells Tom that the challenge is for her to get to know a guy within 5 seconds, and the reward for this challenge is $100. So Faye starts looking around the restaurant for someone until she spots a guy named Ian who's holding a book she really loves. So she says, Faye decides to go ahead and introduce herself to Ian, completing the challenge. Tom is holding her phone and recording her, and afterwards she actually wins the $100 prize for the challenge. However, Faye feels very embarrassed and can't quite process what she just did. Then she sees Ian dancing in the restaurant, and after he finishes, she finds out that he's also participating in the same game. After that, a new challenge is given to Ian, while at the same time Faye. And the challenge is for Faye to go to Manhattan with Ian on a motorcycle in exchange for $200, which Ian and Faye split between them. They accept the challenge, and as soon as they arrive in Manhattan, they complete it successfully and the money is transferred to their accounts. After that, they part ways because each of them receives a new challenge that's different from the others. And Faye's challenge is to enter a clothing store and try on a very expensive dress with the reward of $500. So she goes into the store, finds the dress, and is shocked when she sees its price. But Faye doesn't let it bother her and decides to try on the dress in order to win the challenge. At the same time, Tommy also registers for the dare game, but also to watch. He wants to see what she's doing and find out what she's up to. At that moment, she comes out of the fitting room and sees Ian wearing a very expensive suit. She finds out that Ian got the same challenge as hers. And just as they're talking, a player named Ty appears. And his challenge is to steal Ian's clothes. After he beats Ian and wins the challenge money, they go in to change their clothes. But of course they're shocked to find that their clothes have been stolen. And this turns out to be a new challenge for them, to leave the store and walk down the street in their underwear. And indeed, Ian and Fee do it, and when they reach Ian's motorcycle, they find the expensive clothes they were trying on in the store placed on the bike. This means it was another player's challenge, that he bought those expensive clothes and left them on the motorcycle. At that moment, Fee is happy when $2,500 is added to her account. At that moment, Sydney is surprised when her friend Liv tells her that Fee has joined the dare game and that she has more views than her. Then we go back to Ian and Fee, who are facing another challenge. This time, Ian has to choose a design for Fee to tattoo on her shoulder, and he chooses. Ian chooses a drawing of a lighthouse, and we find out that this drawing was from Fee's favorite book. At that moment, Ian and Fee are happy together. Meanwhile, Tommy is searching online for information about Ian and is surprised when he can't find anything about him, so he calls one of his hacker friends to help him. She gives him a password to a specific site on the dark web. When Tommy logs into the site, he finds a video of Ian participating in the dare game from the previous season. Ian appears in the video with one of his friends on top of a crane that's 200 meters high. At that moment, Ian's friend is hanging from the crane to complete the challenge, but he can't hold on and falls from the crane, dying instantly. Tommy is shocked when he sees this and immediately calls Fee to tell her what he saw, but she doesn't answer. We then go to Ian and Fee, who have a new challenge. The challenge is for Ian to ride a motorcycle at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour while blindfolded in exchange for $10,000. At that moment, Fee is extremely scared to the point that she decides to withdraw from the game, but Ian reassures her and tells her that he can complete the challenge, and he explains that she will be the one in control of everything and will help guide him. He tells her that the prize for this challenge is worth the risk, so she says. Fee is convinced by what he says and agrees. At that moment, Ty shows up and gives them a sticker for Ian to put on his helmet. Then Fee gets on the motorcycle with Ian, and Ian manages to ride the motorcycle without anything bad happening until the time runs out. He wins the challenge and $10,000 are transferred to their account. After this challenge, Ian and Fee become the #1 team in the entire game. Meanwhile, Sydney is throwing a party at her house and everyone at the party is watching Ian and Fee. It becomes clear that Sydney is very jealous of Fee because Fee has a huge number of followers in the dare game, so Sydney calls Fee to annoy her, but Fee refuses to answer. When Ian asks her why she didn't pick up Sydney's call, she tells him that Sydney is selfish and only cares about herself no matter how much you try to fix things with her. And that's why she decided to stay away from her. While Fee is talking, Ian receives a message containing a new dare, but he hides it from Fee. He tells her that he wants to go to Sydney's house, pretending that he just wants to attend the party there to get a change of scenery. Fee agrees and decides to go with him. At Sydney's party, all the game participants watching as spectators notice that she's upset about what Fee did to her, and because of that, they choose a dare for her. It's a very difficult dare, and the challenge is for her to cross from one balcony to another using the staircase. Despite all of Sydney's friends warning her, she goes ahead and attempts the dare, but Sydney is drunk and loses her balance, almost falling off the stairs. She manages to catch herself at the last moment, but her phone falls, causing her to fail the challenge and get eliminated from the game. A little while later, Ian and Fee arrive at Sydney's house and everyone there welcomes them. But Fee gets upset when she finds out what happened with Sydney and she goes to talk to her. However, Sydney yells at her and argues with her because Fee didn't answer when she called. Sydney keeps provoking her with her words, so Fee gets angry and decides to walk across the staircase herself. She completes the challenge successfully. After that, Tommy shows up and advises her to quit the game. He tells her that this game only leads to death, and he reveals that Ian had a challenge to bring her to the party so she would fight with Sydney. He also tells her that Ian played the dare game last year, and he shares the story of his friend who died during a challenge. At that point, Fee becomes determined and decides to leave the party. When Ian sees her leaving, he follows her and tries to explain himself. But Fee yells at him and tells him that she has to report everything to the police and let them know all about the game. Ian is shocked and tries to stop her, telling her that she's putting herself in danger. But Fee doesn't listen to him. She runs to a police car and talks to the officer, telling him about the dare game. The officer asks her if a crime has occurred because of the game, and she tells him that no crime has happened yet, but one could happen at any moment. The officer tells her that he can't do anything unless he sees a crime happening in front of him. At that moment, Fee sees Ian getting on his motorcycle and riding away. Then her mother calls her and tells her that all the money in their account has been withdrawn and their balance is now zero. Suddenly, Ty appears in front of Fee, apologizes to her, and tells her that he has to complete his challenge. He then hits her hard, knocking her unconscious. After a while, Fee regains consciousness and finds herself inside a shipping container. In front of her is a small device, and someone from the game's organizers speaks to her through it. They tell her that she has broken the rules of the dare game and inform her that she is now imprisoned within the game. They also tell her that they control her and her actions, and that the only way to escape all of this is to win the final round of the game. Then Fee opens the container door and steps out, and at that moment she sees Ian in front of her. She asks him to tell her how he knew her, the truth. Ian tells her that he is imprisoned in the game. He explains to her that he and Ty were part of the game last year. Their friend died during one of the challenges. After that, Ian and Ty went to report the game to the police. But they couldn't prove anything because they didn't have any evidence, and since then they've been trapped in the game. He also tells her that the people in charge of the game threatened to harm their families. So Ian and Ty were forced to agree to their terms, and since then they've been at the mercy of the game's organizers. Ian tells Levin that they have to complete the challenges until the end, or else they'll lose their families and their future. He tells her that he's going to help her win the game so she can be free, and he explains that if Ty makes it to the end, he'll do whatever it takes to win the game, but Ian won't let that happen, no matter what. Sophie has no choice but to agree and go with Ian. After that, she calls Tommy and Sydney and meets up with them. As soon as Fee and Sydney see each other, they make up. Then Fee tells them what happened to her and says that they have to hack into the game and destroy it. Tommy tells her that if he's going to try to do that, he's going to need money. So Sydney tells him that she'll provide all the money he needs. After that, Tommy takes Sydney and goes to his hacker friend. They all sit together and start trying to hack into the game. Meanwhile, Ian and Fee go to a specific location, which turns out to be a large arena filled with a huge number of spectators watching them. Ian and Fee are standing facing each other, each holding a gun, and the idea is that one of them has to shoot the other. At that moment, Ian asks Fee to kill him so she can win the game, but Fee tells him she can't do it. Suddenly, Tayo appears and says he's willing to take Ian's place in the challenge. The spectators are thrilled by what's happening. So the game organizers hold a vote for the viewers to decide whether Ty can join the challenge and kill Fee. Fee then speaks to the viewers and pleads with them to wake up from what they're doing, telling them that they're about to cause her death. But none of them listen to her and they vote for Ty to kill her. Ty actually shoots Fee and she falls to the ground. At that moment, Ian breaks down and runs to Fee to check on her. Meanwhile, Tommy and his team manage to hack into the game. They manage to uncover the real names of the viewers, and suddenly each viewer sees their real name appear, followed by a message on their phones telling them that they are complicit in the crime that just happened. This terrifies them and they all withdraw from the game and quickly leave the place. At that moment, Ian discovers that Nevi is still alive and learns that she and Ty had planned this trick together. together. Ian and Ty are overjoyed because they are finally free. After that, Ty exits the game, marking the end and shutdown of the game. At the same time, Tommy and the hackers with him manage to recover the money that was withdrawn from Fee's bank account. Afterwards, Fee goes to sit alone with Ian, and they're happy that they've destroyed the Dare game. But then a mysterious person appears and starts filming them with his phone, and we realize that the Dare game is still ongoing. That's where the movie ends.